Let's be honest, being ghosted sucks. 1 minute you're vibing, connecting, maybe even imagining a future together, and the next, nothing. No explanation, no goodbye, just radio silence. It messes with your head. You start questioning what you did wrong. You reread the texts, play detective, try to make sense of the sudden drop off. But here's the truth, ghosting says far more about them than it does about you. And if you're sitting there wondering, what do I do now? I've got you. Because while you can't control how someone exits your life, you can absolutely control the way you respond. And the move that hurts him most, the one he didn't see coming, it's not rage, it's not revenge, it's not even a perfectly worded text. It's your growth, your peace, your silence, your glow up. Let's break it down. When someone ghosts you, your first instinct might be to demand answers. You want to know what changed, what went wrong, why they disappeared without so much as a goodbye. It's tempting to send that one last text, hoping to provoke a response, or to post something on social media that indirectly calls them out. But here's the uncomfortable truth: reacting emotionally, trying to get a reaction, or chasing clarity from someone who already chose silence won't give you power. It gives them more of it. In fact, the most powerful response isn't reaction at all. It's disengagement, quiet, dignified distance. When someone ghosts, they are hoping to avoid confrontation. They don't want to be held accountable for their actions. They're banking on the fact that you'll either try to win them back or blow up emotionally, either of which gives them control. If you act unbothered, if you pull away with grace and no drama, you shift the dynamic entirely. They don't get the satisfaction of seeing you confused, hurt, or begging for closure. They get silence. And silence makes people uncomfortable when they know they've done something wrong. It forces them to sit with their decision, without the relief of being able to cast you as too much or too emotional in their mind. Disengaging doesn't mean pretending you're not hurt. Of course, you feel something. You're human. But the key is how you handle those emotions. You don't owe them a performance. You don't owe them an audience. You owe yourself peace. And peace doesn't come from forcing someone to acknowledge your worth. It comes from knowing it for yourself and not handing that knowledge over to someone who failed to recognize it. Walking away without a word, without the dramatic exit scene, shows maturity and strength. You are sending a message, not to him, but to yourself, that you don't chase after people who make you feel disposable, that you don't cling to potential, that your energy is sacred, and you won't waste it trying to resurrect something that someone else abandoned without explanation. The irony is, this quiet strength tends to leave a mark, maybe not immediately, but eventually, the absence of drama will stand out. When he expects you to lash out or try to pull him back in, and you do neither, that sticks. When he sees you continuing with your life, thriving, smiling, unbothered, that often hits harder than any paragraph, long message ever could. Because it shows you didn't break. And people remember that. There's also a deeper reason why disengagement is so powerful. It breaks a cycle. So many people are stuck in a pattern of seeking validation from the very people who withhold it. When someone ghosts and you chase, you reinforce the idea that their disappearing act still gives them value in your life. But when you respond with calm detachment, you're saying, your behavior doesn't define my worth. You shift the frame, you regain control, not of the situation, but of your response to it. So no, you don't need to craft the perfect response. You don't need to call them out. You don't even need to block them in some performative declaration of, I'm done. You just step back, quietly, confidently, without a trace of desperation. You let them sit with their choice while you move on with your life. That's not cold, it's clarity. And in a world full of noise, that kind of peace is powerful. It stings more than anger. It confuses more than confrontation. And ultimately, it protects your dignity, something you never need to sacrifice to get someone to notice you. After someone ghosts you, there's often this deep, aching urge to make them see you again. To somehow prove that their disappearance didn't crush you. that you're still desirable, still valuable, still worth something. But what truly unsettles someone who ghosted you isn't a dramatic reaction. It's not posting thirst traps or quotes about betrayal. It's not throwing shade online. What gets under their skin the most is when you live like they never existed at all, because they expect something from you. Maybe it's confusion, maybe it's a reaction, maybe it's a chase, but they expect to still occupy some space in your world. When you remove that space, when you don't even acknowledge their absence, it throws them off. It's unsettling to know you're no longer a part of someone's orbit when you once were, especially when you were the one who walked away. Living like he doesn't exist isn't about bitterness. It's not about being petty. It's about showing, through your actions, that your world continues spinning without needing their presence to validate it. That means you're not checking his social media. You're not asking mutual friends what he's up to. You're not trying to engineer accidental encounters. You're not hoping he watches your stories. You are fully present in your life, with your attention focused forward, not backward. This kind of detachment is magnetic. It's what people call unbothered energy, and it radiates confidence. When you are living fully, laughing, learning, growing, connecting, without needing to prove anything to someone who couldn't even send a goodbye text, you become instantly more attractive. Not just to him, but to the world. Because nothing is more powerful than someone who values themselves enough not to chase someone who didn't choose them. It's also important to realize that this kind of behavior reflects emotional maturity. Anyone can react when their ego is bruised. It takes real strength to sit with that initial pain, process it internally, and then choose to move forward with grace. You're not in denial. You're not pretending you don't care. You're simply refusing to let someone's inconsiderate exit determine the quality of your day, your week, or your life. And let's be honest, if someone ghosts you, they didn't have the courage to communicate. That's not the kind of person you want holding space in your mind. When you stop making room for people who treat you like an option, you begin to attract people who see you as a priority. But that shift starts with how you treat yourself. Living like he doesn't exist means placing your peace, your goals, and your joy above trying to be seen by someone who looked away. There's also a certain quiet revenge in joy. When someone ghosts, there's often a part of them that expects you to stay stuck. Maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, they assume you'll linger, even if just for a little while. So when you don't, when you glow up, dive into your passions, surround yourself with love, and carry on like they were just a passing moment. That lingers. Because here's the thing, the people who ghost often come back. Not because they've suddenly realized how great you are, but because they get curious. They want to know if they still have a place in your life. The most satisfying response isn't a sassy comeback or cold indifference. It's that they find a version of you who no longer leaves room for them at all. Not because you hate them, but because they simply don't fit in the story you're writing anymore. That's what hurts most, not rage, not confrontation, but peace, detachment, a life that keeps moving, growing, thriving, completely indifferent to whether they ever look back. That's the move. When someone ghosts you, there's often a sudden vacuum of energy. All the time you spent thinking about them, texting, planning, hoping, it doesn't just disappear with their silence. That energy needs somewhere to go. The mistake most people make is turning that energy inward in the wrong way, overanalyzing, doubting themselves, wondering what they did wrong. But that's not how you win. That's not how you grow. The most powerful thing you can do when someone disappears is to take all of that emotional energy and redirect it into your own life. Level up, don't lock down. This is about refusing to let someone's poor communication become the defining moment of your story. Instead of closing yourself off or waiting for them to come back and explain themselves, you expand. You take their silence as your sign to double down on you, your goals, your health, your friendships, your joy. You don't let rejection shrink you, you let it sharpen you. When you do this, it doesn't just help you heal, it changes your entire energy. There's a certain glow that comes from someone who is focused on building a life they love. Not to prove a point, not to impress anyone, but because they know that life is too short to sit around waiting for someone to recognize their value. This isn't about pretending you're okay. It's about deciding that you won't stay stuck in a place where you weren't seen or respected. Think about it like this: if someone left without a word, they clearly weren't ready for the version of you that's growing. So instead of pausing your progress, you speed it up. You learn something new. You challenge yourself. You reconnect with the people and activities that make you feel alive. You pour into your passions. You take all that emotional real estate you were giving to someone who wasn't showing up, and you reinvest it into yourself. And here's the beautiful thing: when you level up, your standards level up with you. That means if and when this person tries to circle back, and ghosters often do, you're not the same person they left. You've grown. You've seen what you're capable of without them. And more importantly, you've realized that their absence wasn't a loss. It was a turning point. This is also about changing the narrative. Instead of seeing ghosting as something that happened to you, you treat it as something that happened for you. It cleared the space. It revealed their character. It gave you the opportunity to come home to yourself, and you took it. That's the real flex. Not that they missed out, but that you moved on without bitterness and became someone even more aligned with the life and love you truly deserve. None of this is about revenge. It's not about making them jealous or making them regret anything. That mindset still keeps them at the center of your story. This is about freedom. You don't just get over them. You evolve beyond the version of yourself that needed their attention in the first place. You become so focused on building a life you love that you stop caring whether or not they ever realize what they lost. There's no greater move than self-improvement born from pain. There's no more attractive energy than someone who rises instead of reacts. So when someone ghosts you, don't shrink, don't pause, don't wait for them to come back with the explanation you think you need. Use the silence as fuel. Turn it into motivation. Become the person you were too distracted to focus on while you were busy wondering about them, and watch what happens, not to them, but to you. When someone ghosts you, one of the most frustrating parts isn't just the absence, it's the lack of closure. You're left holding a story with no ending, wondering what you missed, what shifted, what went wrong. There's a part of you that keeps hoping for that final message, that explanation that makes it all make sense. You replay the last conversations, the good moments, even the silences, searching for clues. It's exhausting. And deep down, you think if you just had closure, you'd be able to let go. But here's the truth. You don't need closure from someone who didn't have the respect to give you a proper goodbye. You don't get peace from the person who disrupted it. You give it to yourself. Closure is often misunderstood. We think it's about getting answers, but it's really about accepting that we may never get them. It's choosing to stop looking for meaning in someone else's emotional immaturity. When you hold out for their explanation, you're postponing your own healing. You're tying your peace to their ability to do something they already proved they couldn't: communicate honestly. You're hoping for maturity from someone who ghosted you. That's not where healing lives. Healing starts the moment you decide you don't need their version of the story to move forward with your own. Giving yourself closure means rewriting the narrative. It's not about blaming them or turning yourself into the victim. It's about being honest with yourself. They chose to leave without a word. That's a reflection of their character, not your worth. Their inability to face an uncomfortable conversation says more about where they are emotionally than anything about you. So you stop waiting. You stop hoping they'll come back to validate your feelings or clear up the confusion. Instead, you validate your own experience. You accept what you felt was real, even if they disappeared. You don't need their confirmation for your emotions to be valid. People ghost for many reasons. fear, avoidance, selfishness, immaturity. Whatever their reason, it doesn't excuse the behavior. But recognizing that it wasn't about you gives you back your power. It stops you from internalizing the rejection and turning it into a reflection of your value. You're allowed to be hurt, disappointed, even angry. But closure comes when you stop needing those feelings to be processed by them. It comes when you sit with the pain, acknowledge it, and then gently begin to release it. There's a quiet kind of strength in choosing to close the chapter yourself. Not slamming the book shut in bitterness, but slowly, calmly saying, "This is where it ends." You don't need to know why they vanished to decide that you deserve someone who stays. You don't need a final conversation to trust that the right person won't leave you questioning your own worth. When you give yourself closure, you stop being stuck in a story that was never fully written. You begin writing a new one where the main character isn't waiting, it's evolving. It's tempting to think you need that one last moment to move on. But what if that moment never comes? What if the most powerful thing you can do is to say, "I didn't get what I deserved from them, so I'll give it to myself." You speak the words they never had the courage to. This is over, and I'm choosing to let go. And in doing that, you step out of limbo and back into your own life, not with all the answers, but with something even better, peace. Not because they gave it to you, but because you stopped waiting for it and claimed it for yourself. When someone ghosts you, it's easy to get trapped in the what ifs. What if they got scared? What if you said something wrong? What if they're just busy or dealing with something you don't know about? And while all of those possibilities can feel comforting in the moment, they keep you stuck in a loop where you're constantly trying to fill in the blanks for someone who made a choice to stay silent. But silence is communication. It might not be the kind you wanted, but it's still a message. When someone disappears without explanation, you have to stop romanticizing the confusion and start listening to what their silence is telling you. People who care about you don't ghost you. They may be imperfect. They may need space, but they communicate, they show up. Ghosting isn't just about absence. It's about avoidance. It's someone choosing not to take responsibility for their impact on you. When they go silent, they're avoiding discomfort, avoiding accountability, avoiding the emotional maturity it takes to be honest. And that's not someone you want to keep guessing about. When you stop trying to decode the silence and start accepting it as truth, you free yourself from the mental gymnastics of trying to make their actions make sense. Their silence is saying, "I don't have the capacity, the courage, or the character to be upfront with you." It's saying, "I'm more concerned with my comfort than your clarity." That might be a painful message to receive, but it's also a clear one. And clarity, even when it stings, is a gift because it lets you stop waiting. It allows you to stop imagining that closure or reconnection is just around the corner. It gives you permission to walk away from uncertainty and toward peace. You have to remember that ghosting is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their limitations. People who ghost aren't thinking about your emotional needs. They're thinking about how to avoid an awkward or uncomfortable moment. It's a selfish move disguised as nothing, and it leaves you with questions that won't be answered, not because they're unanswerable, but because the person who could answer them chose not to. The move here isn't to chase after explanations. It's not to prove your value to someone who already decided to walk away without facing you. The move is to take their silence as a full sentence. You have to stop treating ghosting as a cliffhanger, as if it's the pause before the next chapter. Sometimes it's the end of the book, and that's okay, because now you know what kind of communication and what kind of person you don't want. This is about trusting yourself more than the stories you build in your head. Your intuition already knows something is off. Your gut is already telling you that someone who disappears without warning isn't someone who's emotionally reliable. But your heart tries to protect you by clinging to potential. The hard, brave choice is to let go of potential and hold on to reality. The reality is, they left without a word. And that is the word. You don't need to fill in the blanks. You need to accept the space they created and decide you're not waiting around for someone who couldn't even say goodbye. The moment you stop giving energy to someone's silence is the moment you start giving energy back to yourself. You stop reading into the void and start rebuilding your voice. You step into your power, not because someone gave you answers, but because you stopped needing them. You let silence speak, and you listened. And then you moved on, not because you got closure, but because you realized their silence was the closure. When someone ghosts you, it's easy to fall into the trap of wanting them to want you again. There's a part of you that thinks, if I just show them what they missed, they'll come back. They'll regret walking away. They'll realize how amazing I am. That's a normal reaction to rejection. It's your ego trying to regain control, to feel chosen again. But here's the truth: attraction isn't the goal. Respect is. Getting someone back after they disrespected you isn't a win. It's a repeat of a dynamic that already failed you once. And the moment you stop trying to be desired and start requiring respect, everything changes. Ghosting is inherently disrespectful. It sends a message, intentional or not, that your time, your feelings, and your presence weren't worth the courtesy of a goodbye. When someone ghosts you, they strip away clarity and leave you with confusion. Chasing attraction in that moment is chasing the approval of someone who didn't even care enough to give you closure. That's not empowerment. That's self-abandonment, and it's beneath you. Real empowerment comes when you shift the focus inward. When instead of wondering how to get them back, you ask yourself why you would ever want someone back who treated you like that in the first place. The more you grow, the more you realize that being wanted isn't the same as being valued. A lot of people might find you attractive. A lot might even reach out again out of boredom or guilt or curiosity. But very few will show up with consistency, care, and character. And that's what matters. Respect shows up in communication, in clarity, in how someone handles conflict or discomfort. When someone ghosts, they show you that they don't know how to handle adult relationships. They don't prioritize emotional responsibility. So even if they do come back, even if you get that "Hey, sorry I've been MIA" text weeks or months later, what are they actually offering you? A moment of validation, a second chance at confusion. If you accept someone back after ghosting without requiring change, boundaries, or accountability, you're teaching them that they can disrespect you and still be welcomed back. That's not love. That's compromise at the expense of your self-worth. The move that really stings for someone who ghosted you isn't that you got hotter, busier, or more successful. It's that you stopped caring whether or not they ever come back. It's that you looked at their behavior, held it up against your values, and decided it wasn't good enough for the life you're building. It's that you respected yourself more than they ever did. And that kind of self-respect is magnetic. But more importantly, it's protective. When you hold yourself to a higher standard, you naturally start filtering out people who can't meet it. You stop chasing the high of being wanted and start cultivating the peace of being respected. That means you don't accept breadcrumb communication. You don't entertain what-if scenarios about people who walked away without warning. You don't romanticize someone's return just because they finally remembered you exist. You measure people not by how much they say they like you, but by how consistently they show up for you. There's a big difference between being chosen and being treated well. Ghosting is the absence of both. So the next time your mind goes down the path of wanting them to see you, miss you, crave you, pause. Ask yourself what part of you still thinks their attention equals worth. And remind yourself you're not here to be someone's regret. You're here to be respected. Anything less isn't a story worth revisiting. So, what's the move when he ghosts you? It's not chasing him. It's not decoding his silence or waiting for closure he'll probably never give. The real move, the one that actually hurts him, the one that heals you, is choosing yourself. Over and over again, You disengage with dignity, you stop giving your energy to someone who walked away, and you turn that focus inward. You grow, you glow, you move forward, not to prove a point, but because peace, respect, and self-worth are no longer negotiable. His silence isn't your invitation to shrink, it's your permission to rise. And if he ever looks back, let him find a version of you that no longer waits, chases, or explains. Let him see someone who built a life so full, so beautiful, so grounded, that losing access to you was the real consequence of his disappearance. That's the move that hurts him most, and it's the one that heals you best.